7:42 in the morning, 25,000 feet above the Solomon Islands. The cameras click, mechanical, rhythmic, each exposure capturing enemy positions below, Japanese airstrips, revetments, gun emplacements. Intelligence that will save American lives in the invasion to come. Captain Jay Zeamer keeps the Boeing B-17 steady, hands firm on the yoke, despite the blood pooling in his boots. Through the cockpit window, the island of Bougainville stretches beneath them like a green scar on blue water, beautiful, deadly. Behind him, the intervalometer ticks. 3 more exposures, 2 more. 1. Mapping run complete, comes the voice from the belly. Photographer George Kendrick, professional even now, even with what's coming. From the tail, a different voice, higher, urgent. Zeros, 6 o'clock high. Count 17, maybe 20, they're everywhere. A pause. More climbing from Bougainville. Zeamer doesn't flinch. His hands remain steady on the controls, though every instinct screams to dive, to run, to get his crew out of this death trap. But running means the photographs are worthless. Running means Marines die on beaches because they didn't know where the guns were hidden. We're not done yet, Zeamer says into the intercom. His voice carries across the airframe to 9 other men. Hold formation. We've finished the mission. In the nose compartment, 2nd Lieutenant Joseph Sarnowski checks his twin 50 caliber machine guns one final time. The bombardier's position, normally the weakest point on a B-17, defended by a single pea-shooter 30 cal. Not on this aircraft, not anymore, the Zeros circle. Predators finding the range. They've done this before, attacking the lumbering American bombers, coming in from 12 o'clock high where the nose guns can't reach, where pilots and bombardiers have nothing but plexiglass between them and 20mm cannon fire. But these Japanese pilots, veterans of Rabaul and Guadalcanal, don't know what they're facing, can't know. The first Zero breaks from the circle, a test run, feeling out the defenses. Zeamer watches it come, watches it angle for the nose. Now, he presses the button on his control yoke. The fixed 50 caliber mounted in the bombardier's compartment roars to life, a gun fired from the pilot's seat, something no B-17 was ever designed to do. Tracer rounds streak across the sky. The Zero pilot, expecting an easy pass, instead flies into a wall of lead. The fighter wavers, smoke trails from its cowling. It peels away, trailing fire. 1 down, Sarnowski's voice crackles. Professional, calm. The remaining Zeros stop circling. For a moment, there's confusion in their formation. This isn't how B-17s fight. This isn't how it's supposed to go. Then they come, all of them, at once. 6 hours earlier, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. The air hangs thick and turning simple breathing into labor. Dawn hasn't broken yet, but the flight line is already alive. Mechanics crawling over aircraft, fuel trucks rumbling between hardstands, the distinctive cough of Wright Cyclone engines coming to life. At the far end of the strip, in a pool of portable floodlights, a B-17 sits alone. Tail number 41266. The number bothers some crews, the number of the beast. Bad luck painted on aluminum. But that's not why this particular fortress sits abandoned at the edge of the boneyard, scavenged for parts, written off by 3 different squadrons. It's the other number that matters, the one mechanics whisper about, the one painted in holes and patches across its skin. This aircraft has flown dozens of combat missions. It has returned from every single one, and every single time it has come back shot to pieces. Engines smoking, hydraulics leaking, airframe Swiss cheese with flak and fighter damage. The plane that always comes home. The plane that always bleeds. Lucy, someone had named it once, painted the name under the nose windows in neat script, but the current crew never uses that name. To them it's just the plane, or more often simply the numbers. 666 superstition runs deep among bomber crews. A rabbit's foot in every pocket, lucky socks worn mission after mission without washing, prayers whispered to a god who seems very far away at 20,000 feet. Death is random here. A single flak burst can turn a fortress into a fireball. One lucky Zero can send 10 men spinning into the ocean. So when a plane carries the number of the devil and proves it by attracting enemy fire like a magnet, rational men make rational choices. They fly other aircraft. Except one crew doesn't have that luxury. One crew doesn't have any aircraft at all. Captain Jay Zeamer emerges from the darkness, flashlight in hand. 25 years old, tall and lean, with the kind of easy confidence that makes commanding officers nervous. He's been in the Pacific since before Pearl Harbor, has logged more combat hours than pilots 10 years his senior. He's also been denied his own aircraft and crew, repeatedly. The official reason is discipline. Zeamer doesn't fly by the book. He argues with superior officers. He's developed his own tactics for bomber combat, tactics that involve throwing a 4-engine heavy bomber around the sky like a fighter, banking hard into attacking Zeros instead of holding formation, giving his gunners angles that shouldn't be possible. It works. His missions come back with fewer casualties than standard formations. It's also insubordination, so Zeamer flies as co-pilot. Navigator, whatever seat needs filling on whatever crew needs a warm body. He watches lesser pilots get their own aircraft while he borrows other people's planes. Until now, he runs his flashlight across old 666's fuselage, patches upon patches. The skin of this aircraft tells a story: violence absorbed, survived, returned from. Nobody wants her, the crew chief had said 3 days ago. Jinxed. Bad luck. Every crew that takes her up gets hammered. Zeamer had smiled. Then I'll take her. The crew chief had looked at him like he'd volunteered for a firing squad. Maybe he had. But Zeamer sees something else in this beaten, rejected fortress. He sees potential, a fast airframe under all those patches, 4 good engines if they're properly maintained. A camera mount for reconnaissance work, the most dangerous missions, the ones that pay the most in survival statistics. Most importantly, he sees opportunity. Nobody wants this plane, which means nobody will stop him from modifying it. Behind Zeamer, 8 other men emerge from the darkness. His crew. The eager beavers, though they'd never call themselves that in mixed company. Misfits and volunteers, every one of them. Men who'd been rejected by other crews for various sins. Too aggressive, too independent, too willing to question orders. Second Lieutenant Joseph Sarnowski arrives first. 29 years old, older than his rank suggests. Quiet, precise. The kind of bombardier who can put ordnance within 50 feet from 20,000 feet. He doesn't say much, but when he speaks, people listen. First Lieutenant Ruby Johnston, navigator. He can plot a course across 600 miles of empty ocean and hit landfall within minutes of estimate. Crucial for the long-range reconnaissance missions nobody else wants to fly. The rest follow. Flight engineer, radio operator, gunners for every position. Waist, tail, ball turret, top turret. 9 men total, plus Zeamer makes 10. No other crew would take them. Too problematic, too individualistic. Perfect. Gentlemen, Zeamer says, running his hand along the fortress's flank, let me introduce you to our new home. In the portable lights, old 666 looks like what it is, a veteran of too many battles, held together by patches and prayers. Sarnowski walks a slow circle around the aircraft, examining every rivet, every patch, every stress point in the aluminum skin. Finally, he stops beneath the nose, looking up at where his bombardier station will be. She's been through hell, he says. She has, Zeamer agrees, and keeps coming back. That's right. Sarnowski nods slowly. Then we'll make her better, make her fight back. Over the next 3 days they do exactly that. The work starts with weight. Everything non-essential comes out. The relief tubes, spare structural bracing, the heavy cartridge belt feeds for the machine guns. They strip nearly a ton from the airframe. A lighter fortress is a faster fortress. Speed means survival. Then the engines, all 4 Wright R1820 Cyclones pulled and replaced with fresh ones. Zeamer wants power, wants the ability to outclimb, outrun, outlast. But it's the guns that transform old 666 rejected bomber into something else entirely. A standard B-17E carries 10 machine guns, maybe 12 if you count the flexible mounts some crew's jury rig. Old 666 will carry 16, plus 3 spares. The transformation starts in the nose. Sarnowski's compartment, where bombardiers usually huddle behind plexiglass with nothing but a single 30 caliber machine gun for comfort. Not anymore. They install twin 50 caliber Brownings, belt-fed, with clear fields of fire forward and to either side. Heavy armament where B-17s are supposed to be weak. Then Zeamer's addition, the innovation that will save their lives. A single 50 caliber mounted fixed to the bombardier's deck, hardwired to a firing button on the pilot's control yoke. Bore sighted to fire along a line of rivets Zeamer can see from his seat. A pilot's gun. Fighter tactics on a bomber. The radio room next. Standard configuration calls for a single flexible 50. They install twins, doubling the upward defensive fire. The waist positions take the most work. Engineering twin 50 caliber mounts on either side, where gunners can bring overwhelming firepower to bear on attackers from the beam. It's delicate work, balancing the guns, ensuring they can traverse without jamming. Field engineering at its finest. The kind of modification that makes by-the-book officers nervous. By the time they're finished, old 666 bristles with gun barrels, 16 mounted weapons, each a 50 caliber Browning M2, plus 3 spares carried in the catwalk ready to swap in if any gun goes down. More firepower than any B-17 in the Pacific Theater, maybe more than any bomber anywhere. The crew chief watches them work, shaking his head. "You're making her heavier again. All those guns, all that ammunition. We took a ton out," Zeamer reminds him. "Now we're putting back what matters." "And what's that?" "Teeth." On June 14th, Zeamer officially names the aircraft Lucy, after a girl he dated stateside. The name goes on in neat script under the nose windows, a touch of civilization. A reminder of home. The crew still calls it Old 666. On June 15th, the mission briefing comes down, single aircraft reconnaissance, photo mapping of Bougainville's west coast and Buka airfield. 600 miles over open ocean, much of it in enemy-controlled airspace. No fighter escort, the P-38s don't have the range. No backup. The mission requires the specialized camera equipment Old 666 carries. Just one bomber, alone, over some of the most heavily defended airspace in the Pacific. Intelligence estimates at least 400 Japanese fighters in the area, maybe more. Every other crew in the squadron looks at the briefing and finds excuses, maintenance issues, crew illness, scheduling conflicts. Zeamer volunteers immediately. His crew doesn't hesitate, not one of them. "We finish what we start," Sarnowski says simply. So at 4 in the morning on June 16, 1943, as dawn begins to paint the eastern sky, Old 666's engines cough to life. One by one, the Wright Cyclones catch, their distinctive roar building to a steady thunder. In the cockpit, Zeamer runs through the checklist: fuel, oil pressure, magnetos, everything green. Behind him, 9 men are already at their stations. Guns loaded, cameras loaded, ready. The tower clears them for takeoff. Zeamer advances the throttles. 4 engines howl. The heavily modified Fortress begins to roll, picking up speed, the weight of fuel and ammunition and cameras pressing it into the runway. Faster, faster. The tail comes up. And then they're airborne, climbing into a sky that's still more night than day, turning southeast towards 600 miles of ocean. Toward Bougainville, toward 17 Japanese Zeros that don't yet know what's coming. 6 hours into the flight, the Pacific still stretches below them, endless and indifferent. 600 miles of water that doesn't care about wars or nations or the 10 men suspended above it in an aluminum tube held aloft by 4 howling engines. Zeamer holds Old 666 at 25,000 feet. Up here the air is thin and cold, cruel. Each breath requires the oxygen mask clamped to their faces, rubber and metal tasting of rubber and metal, life measured in the steady hiss of pressurized air. The sky lightens from black to deep blue to that peculiar pale color that exists only at altitude. Below, the ocean catches the rising sun and throws it back as a million points of light. Beautiful. Deceptive. Men who ditch in that water last hours if they're lucky, minutes if they're not. In the navigator's compartment, Johnson complots their course with mechanical precision. Dead reckoning across empty ocean, no landmarks to guide them, just mathematics and faith and the steady drone of the engines. 600 miles to target. 600 miles back. 12 hours in the air if everything goes right. Nothing has gone right in this war so far. The crew settles into the rhythm of a long flight, checking instruments, scanning the horizon, the endless vigilance that keeps men alive at altitude. In the waist positions, the gunners flex their fingers, keeping blood flowing in the cold. The bull turret gunner, Sergeant Forrest Dillman, is already in his cramped spherical prison beneath the aircraft, scanning the water below for any sign of Japanese patrol boats. In the tail, Sergeant Herbert Pugh, they call him Pudge, has the loneliest job, facing backward, watching their 6 o'clock, the direction enemy fighters always come from. Nothing to see for hours but empty sky and the twin contrails streaming from Old 666's wings. Hours pass, the sun climbs. The ocean below changes from black to blue to that impossible tropical turquoise that looks fake in photographs. At 0700 hours, they cross into Japanese-controlled airspace. Nothing changes. The ocean looks the same. The sky remains empty, but every man on the aircraft knows they're in the hunting grounds now, knows that Japanese radar stations are tracking them, that radio operators are reporting their position, that somewhere ahead fighter pilots are being scrambled. Zeamer keeps the aircraft steady, holds the course. At 0720, Pugh's voice crackles over the intercom. Land ho, 11 o'clock low there, breaking the horizon like a dark stain on blue water. Buka Island, small, insignificant, and according to intelligence, home to a fully operational Japanese airfield. Zeamer banks slightly, adjusting their course. The island grows larger. Through binoculars, Johnston can make out details now. The white strip of beach, the dark green of jungle, and there, carved from that jungle, the distinct geometric shape of an airstrip. Revetments dot the perimeter, earthen walls protecting aircraft from bombing runs. From this altitude, they look like a honeycomb, each hexagonal cell hiding something deadly. Photographer, Zeamer says into the intercom, we're approaching initial point. Camera check. In the belly of the aircraft, Kendrick verifies his equipment. The Trimetrugon camera array, 3 cameras working in concert to capture a wide swath of terrain below. Specialized equipment. Irreplaceable. The reason this mission exists. Camera's green, he reports. Ready for mapping run. Copy. Beginning approach. Zeamer brings old 666 around in a wide arc, lining up on the predetermined flight path. The mapping run requires precision. They have to fly straight and level, no evasive action, maintaining exact altitude and airspeed while the cameras do their work. It makes them a perfect target. Through his windscreen, Zeamer can see the airfield clearly now. The runway stretches parallel to the beach, crushed coral gleaming white in the morning sun. And around it, in those revetments, in the shadows of palm trees, he sees them, aircraft. Dozens of them, Japanese fighters parked wingtip to wingtip, more tucked into protective emplacements. Mitsubishi Zeros, their distinctive silhouettes unmistakable even from 5 miles up. Count 20 on the ground, Johnston reports, voice tight. Maybe more in the revetments. Too many. Far too many. Zeamer checks his instruments. Airspeed steady at 140 indicated. Altitude holding at 25,000. The cameras need 3 minutes of straight, level flight to capture the complete mapping data. 3 minutes. An eternity when people are shooting at you. Beginning mapping run, Zeamer announces. Camera intervalometer active. The device clicks to life. A metronome of exposure. Click, click, click. Each one capturing intelligence that will save American lives when the invasion comes, each one keeping them flying straight and level for Japanese guns. Beneath the aircraft, the cameras record everything. The airfield layout, the revetment positions, gun emplacements, storage facilities, every detail that makes the difference between a successful amphibious assault and a massacre on the beaches. Click, click, click. 30 seconds into the run, Dillman's voice comes over the intercom. Calm, professional, terrifying in its implications. I count 30 fighters on the ground now. Wait, I've got movement. Aircraft taxiing. In the nose, Sarnowski leans forward, peering through the plexiglass. He sees it too. Small shapes moving on the runway, growing larger as they accelerate. Taking off, Zeros, rising to meet them. How many? Zeamer asks. 4 airborne. No, 6, 8. Still counting. The clicks continue. The cameras don't care about Japanese fighters. The cameras need their 3 minutes. Mapping run continues, Zeamer says. It's not a question. 1 minute down. 2 to go. From the tail, Pugh's voice. Higher now. Urgent. I've got more fighters. Coming up from Bougainville. 12, 15 hard to count when they're circling. At least a dozen, maybe more. Zeamer can see them now, dark specks against blue sky, climbing hard, spiraling up to their altitude. The Zeros from Buka are forming up too, getting organized, preparing to attack the lone American bomber that's been stupid enough to fly straight and level over their airfield. In a standard bomber formation, this is when you'd look to your wingmen. Find comfort in the other fortresses flying beside you, above you, below you. Knowing that if you take fire, 60 other machine guns will respond. Knowing you're not alone. Old 666 is alone. 10 men against what looks like every Japanese fighter on the island. Click! Click, click. 90 seconds completion, Kendrick announces. His voice is steady, the photographer doing his job, but Zeamer can hear the tension underneath. They all can. The Japanese fighters are close enough now to identify. A6M0s, Model 22. The 251st Kokutai naval fighters that have been terrorizing American bombers from Rabaul to Guadalcanal. Experienced pilots. Veterans. They're not rushing in. They're taking their time, forming up, coordinating. This isn't their first bomber kill. 60 seconds, Kendrick says. The Zeros circle like sharks. 17, no, 18 of them. Maybe 20. Too many to count when they're wheeling and turning, finding their attack positions. Zeamer watches them, studies their pattern. They're setting up for a coordinated strike. Multiple fighters attacking from different angles simultaneously. Standard Japanese tactics. Overwhelm the defenses. Someone always gets through. His hands rest light on the control yoke. The button for his fixed nose gun is right there, under his thumb. But not yet. Not until the cameras finish. 45 seconds. The lead Zero breaks from the circle. Arranging pass, testing the defenses. It comes in from 7 o'clock high, diving on their tail. Pew's twin 50s open up. The sound reverberates through the airframe, a hammering that you feel in your bones more than hear. Tracer rounds arc across the sky. The Zero banks away, untouched. Smart. Don't commit, just check the response time. See what you're facing. Now the Zero pilot knows old 666 has an active tail gun. Now he'll tell his squadron mates. 30 seconds. More Zeros peel off. 2 from the left, 2 from the right. Not committing yet, just probing. Looking for weak spots. The waist gunners fire. Short bursts. Disciplined. The way Zeamer trained them. Don't waste ammunition. Make every round count. The Zeros wheel away. They've seen the waist guns too. 20 seconds. The Japanese fighters regroup. Zeamer can almost see them thinking, can almost hear the radio chatter. This B-17 has more firepower than it should. The nose will be weak though. The nose is always weak on American bombers. Attack from 12 o'clock high. Come in from the front. Kill the pilots. 15 seconds, Kendrick calls. The Zeros form up. 5 of them. Spread across the nose like fingers of a hand. 2 high, 2 low, 1 center. Coordinated, professional, 10 seconds. They dive, not a probe this time. A killing strike. 5 seconds. Zeamer watches them come. The center Zero pulling lead. Orange flashes from its wings. Mapping complete. Kendrick's voice cracks with relief. Then the sky explodes. The center Zero comes in high, pulling lead on old 666's nose. Zeamer can see the pilot now, see the flash of his propeller, see the orange winking of his wing guns as he opens fire. Zeamer presses the button on his yoke. His fixed 50 roars. The sound is different from the defensive guns, more immediate, felt through the control column itself. Tracer rounds stream from the nose of the aircraft, fired by the pilot, aimed by the pilot. Fighter tactics on a bomber. The Zero pilot isn't expecting it. Isn't expecting the nose to have heavy armament, isn't expecting the B-17 to shoot back from its weakest point. 20mm rounds from the Zero's cannons slam into old 666's fuselage, metal tiers. Somewhere aft, someone screams. But Zeamer's rounds find their mark too. The Zero's cowling erupts in smoke, oil streams from the engine. The fighter banks hard, trailing fire breaking off the attack. 1 damaged. Zeamer reports. Professional, clinical. Continuing evasive. The second wave hits before he can finish. 2 Zeros from either side coming in on the beam. The waist gunners engage, their quad 50s hammering, filling the sky with lead. 1 Zero pulls up, streaming smoke. The other presses the attack, and from below, a third fighter Zeamer didn't see. Coming up under their belly, where the ball turret should have a clear shot but doesn't, because Dillman is tracking a different target. Twin-engine fighter, an Irving heavier armament than a Zero. Tougher. It comes in on the nose, low, firing upward. In his compartment, Sarnowski sees it, swings his twin 50s down, presses the triggers. The convergence of fire is beautiful and terrible. The Irving's cannons flash, Sarnowski's machine guns flash, both pilots committed. Both refusing to break off. The Irving's 20mm shells find the nose. The first round punches through the plexiglass like it's paper. Detonates in the bombardier's compartment. The explosion is white light and concussion, and the smell of burned metal. Sarnowski is thrown backward, away from his guns. Blood spreads across his flight suit. A gash opens his side, another tears his neck, but his rounds found their target too. The Irving shudders, smoke pours from both engines. It rolls right, losing altitude, the pilot fighting for control he no longer has. In the cockpit, Zeamer feels the impact through the airframe, feels the aircraft buck. His instruments explode in a shower of sparks and glass. Something hot tears through his left leg, his right wrist. Blood spatters the inside of the windscreen. The rudder pedals vanish, blown away by the shell that should have killed him. Behind the cockpit, another shell finds the oxygen system. High pressure lines rupture. A fireball erupts in the radio compartment. The assistant flight engineer, Sergeant Johnny Abel, staggers as shrapnel tears into both legs. The hydraulic system goes next, red fluid spraying. Without hydraulics, the landing gear won't work. The brakes won't work. Half the control surfaces are now manual only. Old 666 has been in combat for 90 seconds. The zeros circle for another pass. In the nose, Sarnowski pulls himself to his feet. Or tries to. His legs won't hold him. Blood pools beneath him, spreading across the floor of the bombardier's compartment. He can feel his pulse in the wounds, feel his life pumping out with every heartbeat. Through the shattered plexiglass, he sees more zeros lining up, coming back, going to finish what they started. His guns are right there, twin 50s, still loaded, still ready. 3 feet away, it might as well be 3 miles. Sarnowski begins to crawl. Pulls himself across the floor with his arms, leaving a trail of red. His vision tunnels, the edges of the world going grey. His training says lie still. Apply pressure. Call for help. His training has never been shot in the nose of a B-17 at 25,000 feet with 20 Japanese fighters circling for the kill. He reaches the guns, hauls himself up. The effort costs him. He can feel something tear inside, feel warmth spreading. Doesn't matter, his hands find the grips, his thumbs find the triggers. Through the shattered nose, a zero comes in. The pilot's probably thinking the forward guns are out of action, probably thinking the way is clear. Probably wrong. Sarnowski fires. The twin 50s hammer. The zero jerks sideways, hit trailing pieces. It doesn't go down, but it breaks off, the pilot thinking better of his choices. Sarnowski slumps over his guns, still breathing, still conscious, still fighting. In the cockpit, Zeamer is doing math. The kind of math nobody wants to do at 25,000 feet with blood in their boots. They've lost oxygen. The crew can't breathe up here. They've lost hydraulics, can't control half the aircraft. They've lost instruments, flying partially blind, and they've got 18 Japanese fighters circling for another strike. Stay at altitude, they suffocate. Go down, they give up their only advantage. The Zeros have to climb to reach them. His left leg won't move, broken. The pain is a distant thing, shock keeping it at bay, but he knows it's there, knows it's going to get worse. His right wrist is sliced open. Blood running down to his elbow, dripping onto the seat. The rudder pedals are gone, flying on ailerons and elevators alone. His co-pilot, Lieutenant Britton, is unscathed, young, inexperienced. Eyes wide with terror, but hands steady on his yoke. "We're going down," Zeamer says. His voice sounds strange in his own ears, distant. "Sir, we descend now, or the crew suffocates." Pass it on the intercom. Emergency dive. Tell them to hold on. Britton keys the mic. His voice shakes, but the words come out clear. All crew. Emergency descent. Brace for dive. Zeamer pushes the yoke forward. Old 666 drops. Not a controlled descent. A dive. Nose down, engine screaming, the airframe shaking as it accelerates past recommended speeds. 25,000 feet. 20,000. 15. The altimeter is gone, but Zeamer knows by feel, by sound, by the way the engines respond. He's been flying long enough to know when an aircraft is about to come apart. They're close, very close. 10,000 feet. The air thickens. Still too high to breathe without oxygen, but getting there. Behind them, the Zeros follow, diving with them, faster because they're lighter, because they're built for this. Abel's voice over the intercom, strained. "They're coming down with us. Count 17. Formation tight. 7,000 feet. 5,000. The oxygen fire goes out, starved of fuel. Johnston and Abel beat out the last of the flames with their bare hands, skin blistering. 3,000 feet. 2,000. Zeamer hauls back on the yoke. His left leg screams, but there are no pedals anyway, nothing but pain and the scream of overstressed metal as old 666's wings try to take the load of pulling out. The rivets hold. They level off at 10,000 feet, low enough to breathe, high enough that the ocean isn't right there beneath them. Zeamer removes his oxygen mask, gasps air that tastes like blood and smoke and the particular burnt smell of combat. Around the aircraft, the Zeros level off too, reforming, regrouping, studying this bomber that refuses to die. From the nose, no sound. Zeamer keys the intercom. Sarnoski, status, silence. Bombardier, respond. Nothing. Zeamer's chest tightens, but there's no time. The Zeros are coming back. They've changed tactics now. No more coordinated strikes. They line up single file on either side of old 666, just outside effective gun range. A gauntlet. They'll take turns attacking the nose, knowing the forward guns have to be damaged, knowing the bombardier must be dead or wounded. They're wrong about the guns. The first Zero comes in from 10 o'clock. Zeamer watches it approach, watches it angle for the kill. He banks hard left, into the attack. The Zero pilot isn't expecting it. His firing solution assumes the bomber will fly straight. Instead, the B-17 turns toward him, tightening his angle, shortening his firing window. The Zero flashes past, cannons hammering but missing, forced to brake high to avoid collision. As it pulls up, Pew in the tail has a perfect shot. His guns track smoothly. Fire. The Zero trails smoke, one damaged, maybe out of the fight. The second Zero comes in from 2 o'clock. Zeamer banks right, into the attack. The same maneuver, this pilot is smarter. He pulls up earlier, climbs, circles for another pass. But that's 30 seconds old 666 isn't being shot. 30 seconds the crew can assess damage. 30 seconds closer to home. The dance continues. Zero from the left, bank left, give the tail gunner a shot. Zero from the right, bank right, let the waist guns engage. Each time Zeamer turns toward the threat. Each time the Japanese pilots find themselves flying into unexpected angles. Their training says bombers fly straight. Their experience says American pilots are predictable. This pilot is neither. Minutes pass. The attacks continue. Old 666 takes hits. Rounds punch through the thin aluminum skin, through equipment, through empty space where men used to be standing. But the engines keep running. The wings stay on, and every time a Zero commits to an attack, it flies into a wall of 50 caliber fire. The Japanese are getting frustrated. Zeamer can see it in their tactics. They're pressing harder, coming in closer, taking more risks, which means they're making mistakes. A Zero comes in too shallow, holds the attack too long, the waist gunners bracket it. Both guns firing. The fighter disintegrates. 2 down for certain, 3 or 4 damaged, but the ammunition is running low. Zeamer can hear it in the firing patterns, shorter bursts. Longer pauses between shots, and the Zeros keep coming. In the nose, Sarnoski regains consciousness. The world is red and grey and distant. He can't feel his legs, can barely feel his arms. But he can feel the guns, can feel the triggers under his thumbs. Through vision that's narrowing to a tunnel, he sees another Zero lining up. One more, he thinks. One more, and then I can rest. He fires. The rounds walk across the Zero's nose, into the engine. The fighter jerks, staggers, loses power. Sarnoski slumps forward onto his guns. He doesn't move again. In the cockpit, Zeamer is running calculations. They've been fighting for over 40 minutes now. 40 minutes of continuous combat. His ammunition counters are into the red. His fuel is lower than it should be, the constant maneuvering burning through reserves. His left leg has gone numb, the blood loss making him lightheaded. Britain is talking to him, but the words are distant, underwater. "Sir, you need to let me take it, sir. Captain Zeamer." Zeamer shakes his head, focuses. The Zeros are still there, but there are fewer now. He counts them. 12, 10, 8. They're breaking off, running low on fuel, running low on ammunition. Running out of reasons to keep attacking this bomber that refuses to go down. The last Zero makes a half-hearted pass. The tail guns fire. Miss. The fighter turns away. Heads back to Buka. The sky is suddenly, impossibly quiet. Old 666 flies on, trailing smoke, leaking hydraulic fluid, her skin punched through with 187 bullet holes and 5 cannon shell impacts. 4 of her engines are damaged but running. Her oxygen system is gone. Hydraulics gone. Half her instruments destroyed. In the nose, Sarnoski is gone, died at his guns. In the cockpit, Zeamer fades in and out, held upright by his harness and the steady hands of his co-pilot. In the tail, in the waist, in every position, men are wounded. Bleeding, exhausted, but alive, and they still have 600 miles to fly home. 600 miles of ocean. Zeamer stares at it through a windscreen spattered with blood. His blood. Sarnoski's blood. The blood of men who trusted him enough to volunteer for a mission everyone else refused. The control yoke feels slippery in his hands, his wrist still bleeding, his shattered leg a distant scream of pain. Every few minutes the shock tries to pull him under. Every few minutes he fights it back. He has to stay conscious, has to get them home. Britain, the co-pilot, is doing most of the actual flying now. Young hands on the controls, learning the hard way how to nurse a dying bomber through the sky. But Zeamer stays on the yoke too, fading in and out. Doesn't trust himself to let go, doesn't trust that he'll wake up again if his eyes close. "How's the fuel?" Zeamer asks. His voice sounds distant, disconnected. Britain checks the gauges. What's left of them? Port outboard is dry, starboard outboard showing maybe 20 gallons. The inboards are reading half, but I don't trust the gauges. Zeamer does the math. It's not good math. The fuel consumption during the combat, all that maneuvering, all those hard banks, eat into their reserves. They might make it, might not, doesn't matter. They fly until they run out of fuel or they run out of sky. Those are the only options. Behind him, in the fuselage, the crew is taking stock. Johnston, the navigator, has burns on both hands from beating out the oxygen fire. He's wrapped them in torn pieces of flight suit and gone back to his charts, calculating wind drift, compensating for the time they spent in combat instead of flying straight. Every minute of deviation from course is miles added to the journey home. In the radio compartment, Vaughan is trying to raise Port Moresby, trying to get word out that they're coming in damaged, that they'll need medical, that they have dead aboard. The radio is intermittent. The electrical system took hits. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. When it works, he sends the same message on repeat. Old 666 inbound. Heavy damage. Casualties aboard. Request emergency clearance. In the waist, the gunners are doing what they can for each other. Field dressing wounds. Sharing water. Nobody talks about Sarnoski. Not yet. Not while they're still flying. Abel, the flight engineer, has shrapnel in both legs, but he's still mobile. He makes his way through the aircraft, checking for fires, for fuel leaks, for anything that might kill them before they reach home. He finds the auxiliary oxygen bottles, not much left, but enough. He brings one forward to the cockpit. "Sir," he says to Zeamer, "you need to stay alert. This'll help." Zeamer takes a pull from the bottle. Pure oxygen. It clears his head, pushes back the fog. For a few minutes, the world comes into focus. "How bad is it?" he asks. Abel doesn't sugarcoat it. "We've got holes you can put your fist through. Hydraulics are gone. Electrical is 50-50. Fuel situation is bad. Landing gear." He trails off. Landing gear what? "Without hydraulics, we can't lower it normally. There's a manual crank, but it takes muscle, and we're all pretty shot up. We might have to belly it in." Zeamer nods. He'd already assumed as much. "And Sarnoski?" Abel's face goes still. "He's gone, sir. Died at his guns." The words hit Zeamer like another shell. He'd known, had to have known, but hearing it makes it real. He got the Irving, Zeamer says. Needs to say it. Needs someone to know. The one that hit us. He got it before he went down. "Yes, sir. He did. There's nothing else to say." So Abel goes back to his checks, and Zeamer goes back to flying, and Sarnoski stays in the nose where he fell. The hours crawl by. The sun climbs higher. The ocean below changes colors with the angle of light. Still beautiful, still indifferent. At 1100 hours, the port outboard engine coughs, runs rough, cocks again, then stops. The propeller windmills for a few seconds before Britain feathers it, turning the blades edge on to reduce drag. Old 666 yaws slightly with the asymmetric thrust. Zeamer compensates with aileron, holding her steady. 3 engines. They can make it on 3. At 11:30, the starboard outboard follows. Fuel starvation. The outboards always burn faster, and both took hits during the fight. The tanks are dry. 2 engines now, both on the inboard mounts. Old 666's speed drops. She's heavy, damaged, bleeding drag from 100 holes, but she flies. At 1200 hours, Johnston announces they're 60 miles out from Port Moresby. 60 miles. 30 minutes if the engines hold. 30 minutes and they're home. The crew allows themselves to hope. At 12:15, the tower at Port Moresby makes contact. The radio crackles to life. A voice from civilization, from safety. "Old 666, Port Moresby Tower. We have you on approach." "What is your status?" Britain takes the mic. Zeamer is too far gone now. Consciousness a thing he has to fight for with every breath. Tower, we have heavy damage. Hydraulics out. Landing gear status unknown. 2 engines out. Multiple wounded. 1 Kaye. Request priority landing and medical on the field. A pause. Then, copy, old 666. You are cleared for immediate approach. Emergency crews standing by. The field is yours. In the distance, land appears. A dark line against the horizon. Papua New Guinea, the most beautiful thing any of them have ever seen. They limp toward it, 2 engines straining, airspeed dropping, altitude bleeding away, 5 miles out, 3 miles. Landing gear, Zeamer mumbles. Try the gear. Abel and the waist gunners are already on it. The manual crank is in the floor of the radio compartment. It takes 4 men to turn it, straining against the mechanism, fighting metal that was never meant to be operated this way. They crank. The gear begins to extend, slowly, reluctantly, showing partial deployment, Britain reports, not locked. Keep cranking, Zeamer says. They crank. The muscles in their arms scream, their wounds reopen. Blood slicks the crank handle. 1 mile out, the gear locks. 3 green lights on the panel, miracle number 1. But without hydraulics, they have no brakes. No way to stop once they're on the ground except to cut the engines and let friction do its work. And the runway at Port Moresby is short. Zeamer can see it now. The strip carved from jungle. Vehicles lining the sides. Ambulances. Fire trucks. Every piece of emergency equipment the base has. And people. Dozens of them. Crews who should be working on other aircraft, pilots who should be flying missions, ground staff who should be doing 100 other things. All of them standing there, watching, waiting to see if old 666 will make it home. Half mile, Britain calls. Speed 120, rate of descent 500 per minute. We're high, too fast. They need to bleed off altitude and speed, but they don't have hydraulics for the flaps. Zeamer's hand finds the throttles, pulls them back. Not all the way. They need some power to control the descent. But back, slowing. The 2 remaining engines wind down. The airspeed drops. 110, 100, 90. They're at the edge of stall speed. If they lose lift now, they'll drop like a stone. But if they come in too fast, they'll roll off the end of the runway and into the jungle. Zeamer holds the airspeed at 95, right on the edge, walking a knife blade between too slow and too fast. The runway is right there, dead ahead, so close. 50 feet, Britain calls. 40, 30, the ground rushes up. Zeamer can see individual rocks on the runway, can see the faces of the men watching. 20, 10, old 666's main gear touches. Metal screeches. The aircraft bounces, settles. The tailwheel comes down. They're on the ground. No brakes means no steering. The bomber rolls straight ahead, momentum carrying it, bleeding speed through friction alone. The end of the runway approaches. Trees beyond it, jungle. Zeamer pulls the mixture controls to full lean, cuts the fuel to both engines. They cough, die. The propellers slow. Stop. Old 666 rolls on. Slower now, slower. The jungle is right there, 100 feet, 50, 20. The bomber stops. For a moment nobody moves. The silence is total. After 12 hours of engine noise, of combat, of the endless drone of flight, the quiet is almost painful. Then the emergency crews are there. Medics running. Fire crews with extinguishers ready. Officers converging. The crew begins to exit, one by one, helped down by hands from the ground, men who see the blood, the damage, the holes punched through aluminum that should have killed everyone aboard. They pull Zeamer from the cockpit. He tries to stand. His broken leg gives out. Strong hands catch him, lower him to a stretcher. The nose, he says. Check the nose. They check. Find Sarnowski still at his guns, still in firing position, dead these past 6 hours, but he died fighting. They bring him out gently, respectfully. Lay him on a stretcher and cover him with a clean white sheet. Zeamer sees it happen, sees the sheet pulled over his bombardier's face, the man who'd crawled back to his guns, who'd taken down an Irving with his guts hanging out, who'd given them the chance to make it home. Then the morphine hits and the world goes away. Zeamer wakes 3 days later in a field hospital. His left leg is in a cast, his right wrist is bandaged, he's attached to more tubes than he can count. A nurse sees him awake, calls for a doctor. The doctor examines him, takes his vitals, nods. You shouldn't be alive, the doctor says. It's not a judgment, just a fact. The amount of blood you lost, the time you spent conscious, you should have died in the air. Couldn't, Zeamer says. His voice is rough. Had to get them home. You did. All of them except Lieutenant Sarnowski. The name hits like a punch. Zeamer closes his eyes. "I died saving us," he says. "I know. I read the reports." Over the next weeks, the story spreads. The single B-17 that took on 20 Japanese fighters and lived. The crew that completed their mission despite impossible odds. The bombardier who died at his guns. The photographs they brought back are gold. Perfect intelligence on Bucha's defenses. When the Allied invasion of Bougainville comes in November, those photographs save countless lives. Marines land knowing exactly where the guns are, where the ammunition is stored, where to strike. The mission was a success. The cost was 1 dead, 6 wounded, 1 aircraft damaged beyond repair. In August, they bring Zeamer back to the States. He's still on crutches, still fighting infections from his wounds. The leg will never be quite right. The wrist will ache in cold weather for the rest of his life. General Hap Arnold himself pins the Medal of Honor on Zeamer's chest. The citation reads like something from a fever dream. Single bomber, 20 enemy fighters, 45 minutes of continuous combat, severely wounded pilot who refused to leave the controls. They award Sarnowski the Medal of Honor posthumously. His parents accept it at a ceremony in Pennsylvania. 2 medals of honor for a single mission. It's never happened before, never happens again. The rest of the crew receives the Distinguished Service Cross. Every man, the most decorated single combat mission in the history of the Army Air Forces. Old 666 never flies again. They bring it back to the States. Use it for a while as a transport, then as a trainer. By 1945, it's obsolete. They fly it to Albuquerque, sell it for scrap, melt it down. No museum preservation. No honored retirement. Just recycled aluminum, returned to whatever purposes recycled aluminum serves. The crew scatters. Some stay in the military. Some go home. They try to stay in touch, but time and distance do their work. The annual reunions grow smaller. The faces grow older. Zeamer lives until 2007, 89 years old. Long life for a man who should have died at 25. He's buried at Arlington with full military honors. A 3-volley salute taps echoing across the headstones. At the funeral, one of the surviving gunners stands at attention despite his wheelchair, despite his age, despite the arthritis that makes every movement painful. Someone asks him why. "He got us home," the gunner says. Simple as that. In Japanese records, the encounter is mentioned briefly. 7 fighters scrambled to intercept a reconnaissance aircraft, 2 damaged. 1 lost to mechanical failure on return. The number doesn't match American accounts. 17 to 20 fighters by crew count. Perhaps the Japanese minimized their deployment. Perhaps the Americans, under stress, saw some aircraft twice. The truth remains disputed. They minimize the engagement, downplay the losses. That's standard procedure. But there are stories, whispered among pilots who survived the war, about a B-17 that wouldn't die. That kept shooting no matter how many times they hit it. That seemed to have unlimited ammunition, unlimited endurance, unlimited will to fight. The Americans call it Old 666. The Japanese pilots who faced it call it something else. The fortress that fought back. The lesson, if there is one, is simple. It's not about the guns. Not really. Old 666 had 16 mounted machine guns plus 3 spares, more firepower than standard. But firepower alone doesn't win battles. It's not about the modifications, the lightweight airframe, the powerful engines, the clever engineering. Those things helped, but machines don't save lives. It's about the men, 10 of them, volunteers, misfits, men who'd been told they were problems, trouble, too independent to work in a proper crew. They proved everyone wrong. When the moment came, when they were alone, outnumbered, shot to pieces, they didn't break, didn't run, didn't quit. Sarnowski crawled back to his guns. Zeamer stayed on the controls. Abel fought fires with his bare hands. Pugh never stopped shooting. The Japanese fighters came at them for 45 minutes. 45 minutes is an eternity in combat. Most air battles last seconds. Minutes at most. But old 666's crew made every second count, made every round count, turned a hopeless fight into something survivable through sheer bloody-minded refusal to die. That's the story. Not about unlimited ammunition. About unlimited courage, about American boys who volunteered for a suicide mission because someone had to do it, who completed that mission despite wounds that should have killed them, who brought their dead home with honor. That's why the Japanese pilots thought they had unlimited ammunition, because how else do you explain a bomber that won't stop shooting? That won't stop flying? That takes hit after hit and keeps coming. You can count the guns, count the rounds, do the math, but you can't count heart. And on June 16, 1943, 25,000 feet above Bougainville, one American bomber had more heart than 20 Japanese fighters could kill. Old 666 made it home. Most of her crew made it home. And the intelligence they bought with their blood saved thousands of lives when the Marines hit the beaches. That's victory, not the kind they make movies about. Not glorious, not clean. Just 10 men doing their job, doing it well, paying the price, and refusing to quit until the job was done. The aluminum that was old 666 is gone now. Melted down decades ago. Part of cars maybe, buildings, soda cans, whatever they make from recycled metal. But the story remains, will always remain, as long as someone remembers what those 10 men did. What Sarnowski gave, what Zeamer endured. As long as someone understands that courage isn't about not being afraid, it's about being terrified and doing it anyway, about being shot and staying at your guns, about being broken and refusing to quit. That's old 666, that's the crew, that's the legacy, and that's why, 80 years later, we still tell the story, because some things deserve to be remembered. Some men deserve to be honored, and some flights into hell deserve to be known for what they were. A handful of Americans showing the world what unlimited courage looks like when you put it in the air and tell it to fight. They fought, they won, and they came home, most of them anyway. For those who didn't, remember, we salute, and we tell their story so that it never dies.